Why do all of the biggest entrepreneurs on YouTube all seem to quit their main channels to start new ones that get a fraction of the views? Well, I wanted to investigate the reason why, and what I found out surprised me, and I think it'll surprise you too. Now, my name's Ollie, and 12 months ago, I did the exact same thing. I quit a channel that I spent 2 years building that eventually pulled in millions of long-form views to start this one, which you can see gets less than 1% of what I was getting when I was going viral. But in that year since, I've more than 10x my revenue from when I was going viral, and I've used exactly what I'm going to show you in this video to help entrepreneurs you might have heard of like James Smith, Kelsey Rodriguez, and Howard No add hundreds of thousands of dollars to their business with YouTube. In this video, I want to show you why chasing views might actually be the worst thing you can do for your business and exactly what to do instead. So let's start with why I think going viral is such a bad idea in the first place. Now, I've worked with James Smith, but I've hung out with former members of Ali Abdaal's team, and I've been through Ed Lawrence's awesome YouTube growth program. But the first thing I always want to know from these people is the same. Why on earth would you kind of quit a channel that's pulling in viral views? And the answer, strangely, was always the same. Now, in the glory years of YouTube, let's call it 2018 to 2024, going viral was great. There were fewer creators, so AdSense and brand deals paid quite well. But now, well, YouTube is flooded, and personally, I can't name a single channel that's been started in the last 2 years that's making a living from AdSense and brand deals alone. Meanwhile, channels that never really go viral are quietly pulling in 30, 50, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars every month. Well, to show you why, think about how you would advertise your product or your service years ago, like way back before the internet and social media. Now, you could put a giant billboard on the motorway, and millions of people would drive past, almost none of them would care, and you pay for every single eyeball whether or not they want to buy or not. Or alternatively, you could open a shop on the right street. Now, fewer people might walk past, but the ones who do might already be looking for what you sell. So they walk straight into your store and buy. And that's actually the difference between building what I call a billboard channel on YouTube and a storefront channel. And billboard channels are built for maximum attention. And James built his with his kind of call out, industry, fitness exposure videos. Ali made content for students and anybody wanting to be more productive. And mine sort of went after a really common problem, screen addiction. But a billboard channel like this only really works if you've got a super scalable offer for the mass market. And think things like a drink, a supplement, or maybe an app that in most cases, I bet, is an operational bloody nightmare to run. So the question stops being, how do I get more views? And should become, how do I get as many of the right viewers as possible and turn them into a scalable business? So next in the video, I want to show you the ridiculously simple system that I use with all of my clients to build them a storefront channel that adds tens of thousands of dollars every single month to their business. And coincidentally, I actually call it the storefront system. It's made up of 4 simple parts you can copy, and the first part works like this. Now, step 1 is to pick the person who your shop is for. Now, when I first tried to monetize my old audience, I ran a load of calls to my audience. I wanted to figure out the messaging, the pain points, and fundamentally figure out what I should actually sell to them. But I noticed something quite weird. There's actually no common ground between any of the people that I spoke to. Because in that audience, I had stay-at-home mums, students, retirees, authors, digital nomads, basically anybody under the sun. And each one of these different types of people could have an entire channel built just for them. So what do I think you should do instead? And what do I see all of the best channels run by entrepreneurs do right now? Well, it actually works a little bit like this. Imagine that you were going to go out and buy some jewelry for your partner. You could go to Claire's or you could go to Van Cleef. Now, both are massively successful businesses, but you're far more likely to find a teenage girl shopping in Claire's and a 20-something Miami core seller in Van Cleef. But it's not actually just the price that dictates who goes in these stores. It's the colors, the messaging, the ads, all of it is completely different. Now, because Claire's and Van Cleef know exactly who they're for, they can win and grow. And YouTube works exactly the same. The best storefronts or YouTube channels attract one aspirational identity. So step 1 of this storefront system is simply to decide exactly who you want walking into your shop, or in this case, your YouTube channel. And here's the simplest way to do just that. Picture just one person in your head, and what's the one big problem that they wake up in the morning wanting to solve? This is the entire problem that I think you should build your storefront channel about. But then this raises another interesting question. How do you know how specific to make this person? Well, that actually brings us on to step 2 of the storefront system, and it's all to do with picking the right street. Let me explain. Now, most people don't actually realize that if you're an educational channel, there's actually a hard limit on how many people can ever watch your video. And this is the same as a shop, right? A store on Oxford Street at Christmas time is going to get way more traffic and footfall than one down some random country lane. But here's the twist. The country lane shop oftentimes might actually make more if it's targeting a really specific person, so the people who make that trip are going to be more likely to buy their higher intent. And think about how that would work on YouTube, right? You could make one video that's called like 5 tips to be more productive. But who do you think is going to click on that? Well, bloody everybody who's ever felt behind or a bit lazy might click on that, right? It's like Oxford Street 2 weeks before Christmas. Wall-to-wall traffic with people that are kind of just window shopping. And on the other hand, you could make a much more specific video and call it something along the lines of the exact weekly schedule I use to close 3 houses a month as a solo real estate agent. I've actually seen a title very similar to that work. Now, obviously, far fewer people are going to click on that video, right? It's that kind of rural store. But whoever clicks on this video isn't just browsing. They're going to be a real estate agent with that exact same problem, and their wallet's already out, or at least on the way. Now, 50 of those people are worth way more to your business than 50,000 of the productivity crowd. I can speak from experience. But fewer people on the street doesn't always mean fewer sales. You can still pull big views. I'll show you how a little later on in the video, but you've got to make sure that everything else I'm about to say is dialed in. So the point here is you've got to know your street before you build your store, so you know what view count you're actually aiming for. Now, the easiest way to do this is to search your niche on YouTube. So have a look at golf or Airbnb, real estate, whatever it may be, and you'll see the rough kind of numbers you can target. So am I saying that views are bad? Well, no, of course not. You just want to make sure that you're getting the right ones. I call this on-target virality, making sure that the most people who could genuinely want their specific problem solved all walk past your shop, or actually in this case, view your channel. Because here's the thing, look, anybody can make a dancing cat video that does 8 million views. I mean, some strategists might even use that as credibility. But how many people can actually make an educational video that has on-target virality and actually sells? Probably fewer, right? And this kind of brings us on to step 3 of the storefront system, which is going to help you turn those viewers into buyers. And step 3 is to build your front door. Now, it might sound obvious, right? But a shop with no door is just a nice window. You can't make a sale if nobody can actually bloody get inside. And how does this map to YouTube? Well, I've seen behind the scenes of the sales systems of, at this point, dozens, probably hundreds of entrepreneurs, and indeed my own. And I've noticed that the rules are changing. Now, this isn't just like kind of YouTube marketing guru talk, but it's genuinely getting a lot harder to get somebody to buy straight from just watching a YouTube video. Now, if you've seen any of these kinds of videos before, you probably already know what I'm about to say next. You need an email list to sell to and a lead magnet to grow that email list. And in this context, that lead magnet is the door that opens your shop and lets people know you're open to business. Now, it's still true that building an email list and selling to that list is the best way to make sales, but what used to work to grow that list in terms of 30-day nurture sequences or free PDFs just don't work anymore. The reality is nobody cares about information that they can get from Claude or ChatGPT in 10 seconds. Why would anybody give you their email for that? But it's not all bad news, because instead, what I've seen work really well right now is what Daniel Priestley calls quiz funnels. And basically, these are kind of short assessments that somebody can fill in, and then it can give them personalized feedback on the exact problem your channel is about. This is the kind of thing that people are willing to give their email address for. Now, the really cool thing here is you can build one of these assessment lead magnets with Claude in literally a couple of hours. And the real smart move here is to frame your CTA as how far away are you from insert benefit. And what I've noticed is that when you build your email list with these kind of assessment funnels, everybody who signs up to your email list is already quite high intent and more likely to want to buy something from you down the line. So is that it? Just build this kind of lead magnet, open the door from your channel into your sales system, and voila. Well, not quite, because there's a fourth part to this system that I think almost nobody online talks about. And this final thing is actually the one step that makes growing your channel and your business way faster than you perhaps anticipated. Now, this brings us on to step 4 of the storefront system, and it's all to do with cleaning up. Let me explain. Well, have you heard the kind of warning that YouTube is too saturated now in most niches to grow a business in a channel? Well, why then am I, and probably you, seeing more channels than ever before absolutely explode? Now, look at just a few of the channels that I've noticed blowing up right now and see if you can spot a pattern between all of them. you'll notice that all of these channels have polished, high-end cinematography with kind of deep expertise layered throughout the video. Now, it's hard to argue that this doesn't instantly raise their credibility. And this is actually the exact same in a shop, right? Because imagine this. If you want somebody to buy what you have to sell, what's going to convince somebody? A clean, polished interior, or walking into a store just to find coffee cups kind of strewn everywhere and owners who clearly don't care about how the place looks. And that's the thing. It is possible to grow a business and channel on YouTube in 2026, but you can't just hit record, riff off a few bullet points, and wing your packaging the same way you might have been able to do a few years back. Instead, you need a clean presentation, just like those polished storefronts and channels that I showed you. And there are 3 levers that I think you can pull to get to this point. Now, lever 1 is visuals. This is basically just how good your set looks. The cinematography, the B-roll, the editing. Now, people like Lucas Hedenbenk and Hoon have these kind of beautifully clean visuals that set them apart from everybody else who's trying to grow in the fitness space. I mean, it takes real creative skill and time to level this up, but it does work for views. I mean, just take a look at this example from Declan Jenkinson. It's absolutely undeniable that this is worthy of sitting down and watching the video. But what happens then if you're not the most creative person, or you don't have a team to pull off these kind of high-level edits? Well, then you got to pull lever 2, which is all to do with your expertise. And this is basically just how much credibility or experience you actually have versus everybody else on the platform, and whether or not you show that very clearly in your videos. Now, Ryan did this on the 3rd video we made together. This was just a deep dive that lent into his PGA coaching credentials on something genuinely hard, right? Becoming a scratch golfer, that he had deep experience in coaching people and doing himself. Now, pulling this expertise lever took his channel from sort of 300 to 400 views to over 55,000 very quickly. But what if you're a little bit greener, a little bit newer, less experienced, younger, like I was when I first started on YouTube? I mean, I didn't have a bloody clue. I was still at university. Then you've got to pull lever 3, which is your personality. Now, there's no real way to measure this, but I think that camera presence is something people notice straight away. It's something you've either got or you haven't. It's a skill that you can learn and you want to develop over time, but I'd argue this is kind of what grew my first channel. Now, I'm not trying to sound like a narcissistic arsehole before somebody leaves a comment. I'm looking at you, Steve, but this was the only lever I could pull. I was shooting on my phone with a cheap light in my kind of university accommodation, and I had no experience. But I got comments and emails from people saying they liked my vibe and my videos for whatever that's worth, and I think my personality had a lot to play for that. Now look, the reality is you don't need to pull all 3 levers to grow your channel and business. I mean, I certainly didn't. But what you do need to do is to have an honest look at yourself in the mirror and look at where you're weakest and where you're strongest and pull those levers in your favor. But here's the thing nobody's going to tell you about this storefront system. You can't just build your whole storefront or your channel overnight. Because if you're trying to do all of this without a team of YouTube experts, you're likely just going to burn out and quit. And if you do that, that's the only real guarantee of failure on this platform. So my recommendation here is just to look at this storefront system and find the one part that's letting you down the most. Fix that first and then move on to the next one. Now, to be honest with you, I haven't got around to building one of these assessment funnels for my own channel yet. But what I have got is a Claude scale that's going to help you package some of these outlier videos and stand out in your niche. And I've used this across loads of my clients in my agency, and it's starting to get pretty bloody fantastic results. Now, you can get that just by clicking the top line in the description below. But in the meantime, if you want to see how I build a business channel for the right viewers and to generate real revenue, watch this video next. I think you're going to like it. I'll see you all there.